Hello and welcome to today's SAP Community Call. My name is Menina Chow. I'm part of the SAP Community team and I'm your host today. The topic of today's SAP Community Call is Deep Dive on Master Data Quality Management. And as always, this call is a recorded session and you will be able to access all replays of previous SAP Community Calls in community.sap.com under the Events tab. Our speaker for the session is Andreas Seifried, Product Manager for Master Data Management at SAP SE. And now, before I hand over, I would like to make you aware of the Q&A button, where you can already raise questions during the presentation. So you should definitely be able to see a button that says Q&A. And afterwards, we will reserve some time to answer as many questions as we can during this call. Yeah, and I would say, Andreas, let's start with the short video and the floor is yours.
In today's digital world, the amount and the complexity of data are growing constantly, and so is the challenge in providing high-quality data, which can only be done with highly efficient tools. So here we'd like to show you how SAP Master Data Governance helps you consolidate and centrally govern your master data, and how you can use it to increase data quality, to guarantee consistency, and to make the digital transformation of your business a success.
Yeah, thank you, Menina, for the introduction. As said, my name is Andreas Seifried, and I welcome you also on this deep dive on Master Data Quality Management with SAP Master Data Governance on SAP S/4HANA. So the session is structured into the following parts. So I'm going to start with a brief overview. Then I show you how you can use Master Data Quality Management of MDG to fix and analyze, or to analyze and remediate data quality issues, so to fix the issues. Then how you can use it to prevent those issues from happening at all. And also how you build the rule framework or the rule infrastructure to do the two things, fixing and preventing data quality issues. So let's get started right away. So Master Data Quality Management is, as said, in the scope of today's session, part of the functionality provided with SAP Master Data Governance on SAP S/4HANA. So MDG is our product which allows you to create a central master data hub in your organization, either on the same operational ERP or as a dedicated hub system, where you can do several processes in regards to master data management, namely central governance of master data, so central authoring of master data and distributing this master data or providing this master data into your operational processes, regardless whether they run on the same system or on other systems in your system landscape. You can use master data governance for consolidation of master data into this central hub for processes where central governance is not appropriate, or for migration, either as single events, data migrations, or continuous migration projects, or continuously bringing in data from various sources. And the third functional part of SAP Master Data Governance is data quality management, which allows you to manage master data quality by defining, enforcing, monitoring, and improving quality. I need to state that this functionality, other than the others, is only available on the S/4HANA version of SAP MDG. So it's not available as part of the ECC version. That's one thing. And the other thing is you can use each of these parts of MDG independent of each other. So for example, you can use MDG to get started with master data quality management, independent whether you have already started looking into the central governance parts of MDG. But of course, when combining all three functional parts together, as it is expected from one product, they work together. So for example, the rules that you define for analyzing the quality of your master data, you can use the very same rules in the processes provided by central governance or by consolidation. We will see this later on. So what is it good for, data quality management? When talking to customers, we decided to provide functionality that allows our customers to first of all define what quality means for them. So these requirements come from business processes, actually, not out of somewhere out of the blue. These business processes define, and the decisions in the organization define, for example, what the payment terms are for customers on whatever attributes of the customer and so on. And these are then part of the definition of quality. And some customers start very early in their projects with data quality management. Others start rather later on, so data is already there. And then, of course, you need a solution that allows you to start small and to grow from there, to set priorities according to the value you can create and get started. And when deciding or defining your quality, you do this with data quality rules. Experts typically need to collaborate and work together to define those rules. People also typically need to work together to describe the rules, and others need to implement those rules. And this is one important aspect of the functionality that we also provide. And also to allow automation in that process, so that it's not always people who need to top-down define data quality rules, but functionality where also the system supports analyzing existing master data to identify meaningful additional rules. And then, of course, that application does not only need to provide the functionality to describe the rules. In the end, after a rule is established, you also need something in the system that is executable, that can be used by the system in various processes. First of all, you want to make sure that only quality master data enters your system. And here you need to cover every point of entry of master data in your system. So single changes, mask changes, creates and edits, of course. Scenarios where you load data into the system may be in the daily business or in projects. There are cut-over projects where you need to maybe accept that data enters the system which is not so of high quality. So what I want to say, this is easier said than done. But our objective and what we have already in the software is to allow to include those rules in checks in all the processes that are supported by SAP Master Data Governance. Then, as said before, it's not always possible to cover each and every point of entry in the system. Sometimes you even need to accept that for a short point or short frame of time, maybe there's some reduced quality in your system, but you need to be able to monitor the quality situation, to find those issues and to repair them. Not only that, if you do not start on a green field, you have master data already in the system. You start with your quality initiative and you need to be able to find already existing master data and fix these issues. And of course, you also want to see, okay, if there is bad data in the system, how is the organization coping up with that situation? So does the quality improve? Do people really fix the issues that were found? And here it's important to have an easy to use monitoring and reporting capability, and that you cannot only use to see and watch the situation, but also to improve quality from here. So to have an analytics capabilities that allow you also to do action, to fix data, either by fixing the processes, that, for example, by education means, or by defining additional rules or something like that. But of course, also the most situation at hand. If issues are fixed, you need to be able to do changes to the master data to fix the issues. So, and with SAP Master Data Governance, we can cover this complete process. And to show this to you, I want to get a rather demo-oriented approach. First, I want to show you how you can fix issues that were detected. So detecting these issues and then fixing these issues. So assumed you have already set up the data quality rules in your system. MDG allows you to analyze the master data and to provide reports, for example, as shown here on that screenshot. So this analytical app, an overview page, is provided out of the box with these cards that allow you to see, for example, by product type, where are the most issues appearing, and to drill down from here. The system also allows you to define, on top of the data quality rules, additional data quality dimensions. So for example, completeness and correctness. You can link rules to that check the respective aspect of quality in the system. So completeness rules check whether the appropriate information or all the fields are filled and given. And by defining these dimensions, you add those rules to these dimensions, and by that means the system calculates KPI, so-called data quality scores for you. And this overview page also gives you a trending chart, so to see how the situation improves over time, hopefully improves and not worsens over time, of course. And all these analytical cards, they are fully navigationable, so you can do a drill down from here via smart business applications down to the individual findings on a so-called analytical list page, where you get presented, which presents to you the individual findings of when analyzing the rule against master data in your system. How does that look like? As I said, I want to demo this to you. So assumed you have a system where there were already a couple of rules set up. Master data is in that system, and a data quality evaluation was already performed. So here for master data in the business partner domain, that analysis was already performed, and the system calculates a score, a latest score of 81. You can click on that tile, which brings you exactly to that, or to a similar overview page that I presented to you in the previous slide in that screenshot. Here you see that in this example, there are 4 dimensions defined that check the various aspects of data quality in the system, the level of score in regards to that dimension, and how everything sums up to an overall score, how far away you are from your overall target achievement of your score. You also have that trend report, so how does the situation change over time by these dimensions, and when you click on those, you zoom into that, you see the scores for each dimension over time, and you can select, for example, here the dimension redundancy and drill into that dimension to see for each rule that is assigned to that dimension the score and rule level. So in this simple demo, I only added one single rule to that dimension. So if there were multiple rules, of course, I would see multiple lines here. There's only one rule, which is called search terms must not be equal. So there's one rule that compares the search terms in the business partner, and somebody defined that rule that these must not be equal. And so recently that score dropped from 86 down to 85, meaning only 85% of overall business partners that are subject to that rule are conformant with this rule, and 15% not. So if you want to further analyze this, why is this the case, you can select that point and go to the detailed evaluation results. And here in that application, you can see down here in the table for each business partner in the system, for the rule that you selected, what is the outcome, meaning the result. So since I came into that app from the score, I see both outcomes, whether the result during evaluation was okay or not okay. So in this case, about 5,000 business partners where search terms are not equal, and about 3,000 where the search terms are equal. So in this application allows me to do filtering using that filter bar on the top with this graphical filter. So for example, I directly see here that there are 662 evaluation items that do not fit to that. I can click on that, and then the chart area, which displays the table down here, changes. So it's now filtered. You see it's 662 organizations were evaluated against this rule. And I can use the chart area not only for analyzing, so for breaking down what I do right now. So see the results by outcome to compare how many business partners are okay versus how many are not okay. I can click on that chart, on that bar, actually, to filter the list of results. And I can further drill down, for example, using the country. Now I see the breakdown by country. I have further options to use various diagrams and use filtering. So if I, for example, this pie chart that now shows the situation filtered by the results filtered by not okay and showing the distribution across countries. So maybe I'm a person in a situation to analyze the situation only. In that case, maybe my job is already done, because now I know in India and Germany there's the worst data quality situation, so I need to talk to those people being responsible for that. But the very same app can also be used for operational people. So for example, if I was the one who needs to fix issues also, I could further filter by country, for example, in Spain and US, select these countries and go back to the view where I also see the results. So now I see all the business partners in Spain and US, which are not conformant to this rule. I could click on the rule to get further information what the actual issue is. But as said, I explained it already. Search terms are simply equal. I choose this very simple rule because it's easy to explain. And if I was now supposed to fix the issues, I can do multiple things. I want to show you one of this. I can select all the business partners which are faulty and go into a mass process, mass change for all those business partners, and which brings me to the app for mass processing that I suppose was already demoed in one of the other sessions on SAP Master Data Governance. And now to fix that situation, I would select the 2 search term fields of the business partner and start a mass process for the 8 business partners in Spain and US, which are faulty. And I could edit the 8, go to the general tab. So I see now the actual values of the search term. I can do individual edits in these fields to fix it, but just to show you the principle, I again simply select all the 8 business partners and just clear search term 2. And I mean, the mass processing app by itself is worth a demo on its own. There are various features. For example, I can see what are the changes that were already done and so on. I can see statistics on the changes that I already did. But to keep that or to cut that demo short, my job is done right now. So I can continue with the process, and in the end, the change data would get activated to the system. So I have fixed all the issues that were found in the system with this. So to sum this up, this is not the only possibility to fix the issues that were detected. In that application that shows the results on product level or on material level, I have various possibilities. First of all, I can delegate the work, which is of course nice for me because somebody else will do the job. I can send a link to that app, including all the filters, to somebody else, having the benefit not only that I must not do, or it's not necessary for me to fix data, but another benefit is I do not export data out of the system. And this app includes all the authorizations of the users. So for example, in that case, if I'm not supposed to see particular materials based on authorization group or other authorizations, I will not see it. So with that way of sharing or assigning work, you do not break any rules, so to say. But if there are still cases where it's necessary to export data, one way of exporting is I can export the list of issues down here. So just the columns that are part of that table here. So in this case, the material number and the rule ID would get exported into an Excel spreadsheet, and somebody would need to fix the issues, or maybe you just need it for reporting and counting. I can directly start the correction process from this app. So clicking on a business partner number or on a material number here, I have access to all the apps according to my authorizations and role assignment in the S/4HANA system to fix the issues. So for example, maybe you don't have central governance configured in your system. You can use the apps that are there in S/4HANA natively, so say, to fix the issues. But I can also, right from here, start a change process, a change request to fix the issues. And as demoed before, I can select multiple products or business partners and do mass processing with that. One additional very interesting feature is I can select one or multiple objects, business partners, or material and do full export, or select actually the amount of data I want to export, but it's up to the complete data model that we support. Export all the data, for example, including basic data of material and plant data and sales area data of a material. Export this into an Excel spreadsheet, do offline edits, and import the changed data from the Excel into the system again. So these are the ways to fix the issues after they have already occurred. But of course, it is even better to prevent such issues from even happening. And of course, this is also possible. So with S/4HANA 1909, you can use the data quality rules not only for evaluating already existing master data, but also for checking in MDG's change request processing. So there's an additional usage for each rule that you can enable independent of the data quality evaluation, with the effect that the very same rule and depending on the complexity of the rule, also the very same rule implementation will be used without further efforts, will be used in the change request process. So it's flexible to enable it independently. It's even possible to not only use it for material and business partner, this is also open for custom objects that are based on the reuse mode of MDG. And here you need to do some custom implementation in your access class that you had to code anyhow to include the rules also for custom objects. So overall, this gives the value of in the efficiency, the value of efficiency in the definition process of rules, because you use basically the same rule, and of course also in the consistent use and implementation of the rules in the various processes. So assume there's again the same rule that checks the search terms for equality as demoed before. In the change request UI would look like that. Right during the edit or the creation process, the rule will be checked and the appropriate error message will come up. And it's not only possible to use the rules in central governance, it's also possible to use these rules in mass processing and consolidation. So initially, this was only released in S/4HANA Cloud 1911. It's planned for later releases of S/4HANA on-premise. So it's also scheduled for feature pack 2 of S/4HANA 1909. And when this rule, that checks the search terms, is used in a consolidation, in a mass process, in this example, in a mass process to change business partner data, it will be included in the check process during validation activation as any other API logic. And if data is not conforming to the rule, an error message will be shown. So up to now, I showed you what you can do with these rules. Yeah, so you can do data quality evaluation. You can use them for check in the change request processing, in consolidation, mass processing. But you might wonder, how do I come to those rules? How do I build those rules? And for that purpose, there's an app available. One app basically on the same framework, but this is domain-specific apps for product and for business partner, but you can use the same app infrastructure also for your custom object. So what I tell you applies to all the 3 domains likewise. And this app allows you to catalog and define all your data quality rules. So including a comprehensive description of the rules with the business aspects, ownership information, and of course, last but not least, not only descriptive parts, but the actual implementation of the rule. You can use collaboration features and status handling that allows you to manage the whole lifecycle process from creating the rule, defining the rule, using the rule until you don't need the rule maybe at some point in time. So value here is you have one single place for your master data rules. This description of the rules sits in one place where you can also access the implementation, and all that gives you the transparency on the business aspects, the usage of the rule, and the implementation. So collaboration features come together with SAP Copilot, so you can make notes, describe rules with those notes, share those notes with other people, collaborate using screenshots and other features that are made available as part of SAP Copilot, but I want to refer to the respective description of SAP Copilot and not further describe all the capabilities of Copilot here. But it will be part of the demo that I'm going to share with you in a minute, so you have an impression how this looks like. So, and when defining this rule, as I already said, you can define how and which processes the rule is used. So it's not only possible to use it in data quality evaluation, enable, disable it. You can add further usages of a rule by editing or adding the appropriate usage in this rule repository. Let me show that in a demo. So assumed that I am a person who's responsible for implementing master data quality rules in the system. And I work together with other colleagues who are in charge of describing and deciding upon whether certain data quality rules are needed at all and what they should check. So I would go in the app data quality rules for business partners. And if I filter the list of rules already by status to be implemented, where I'm the implementation expert, in the demo I see that Olivia created a rule, search terms must not be equal. So same rule as in the previous demo. I can have a closer look at this and see that, okay, she wants me that I implement a rule that checks the value of search term 1 because it must not be equal to value of search term 2. She provided also a reasoning behind why this rule is needed, a description of the scope of the rule. So you have the situation typically that not each and every rule is applicable to every master data, to every business partner, for example, but maybe you have rules that check the material group assignment, which is only relevant for certain material types or something like that. And then you would describe in that scope field to which data the rule is applicable. Here she wants me to create a rule which that has all active business partners in scope. She already provided further information in that link field, a link to externally stored data. I see that she's the rule owner, so in charge of deciding whether the rule is needed and also approving the rule. I'm the business, the implementation expert, and that there are also further contact information maintained. If I click on the usage section, I see, okay, she wants to use that rule initially for data quality evaluation purposes. Currently, that usage is in status not ready. Why that? Because it's not implemented yet. I need to prepare that usage by pressing that button. And the system will now prepare BF Plus for me to implement the rule. So what I've not talked about so far, what SAP Master Data Governance uses is BF Plus for describing those rules. So in the BF Plus workbench that I'm going to use right now, I implement the rule, and we also use BF Plus as a rule engine during execution. My first decision here now is to confirm the base table. What's the meaning of that base table? That means on what level is the rule applied. Yeah, so in that example, the search terms are in the general data part of the business partner. Every business partner has the search terms only once. And in the end, during data quality evaluation, the system will apply that rule to every business partner once, and every business partner will either conform to this rule or not conform to this rule. So the outcome will be either okay or not okay. But you can, of course, also have rules that are on the level on company code or for material on plant level and so on. And here you need to choose then the appropriate base table. So for example, if you have a rule that checks some MIP parameters, that rule would be using typically the plant as the base table. And the system then later on will evaluate each plant for which a material that is in scope of the rule is maintained, will evaluate the rule for that plant data. And in the end, there will be typically more than one result, more than one outcome of the rule. So after I confirmed that and the system has prepared BF Plus, I see that now I got two expressions available here. One is a so-called scope expression and the other is the condition expression. Both are in status initial because I have not done anything yet. So the purpose of the scope expression is the system will use that expression to check whether data is in the scope of that rule. So Olivia wants to apply that rule to all active business partners. So in that expression, I will filter the existing business partners to only include active business partners. And the condition expression will do the actual check. So comparing the two search terms to see whether they are equal or not. So clicking on that expression of the scope expression, the BF Plus workbench is open. And I see a default expression here provided to me. And when I click on edit, I first remove that default and change the operand to use, not one of the directly in the context available fields, but to use the query function here to search for the deletion flag. So what you see right now here, without further ado, right out of the box, I have access to the complete data model of business partner and product that is in the scope of MDG to all the fields and tables. And using that search functionality here, I find the archiving flag in the BUT 000 table. I can use that field and compare it whether the business partner is already flagged for archiving. And if it is already flagged for archiving, it is not in the scope of the rule. And if it's not yet flagged for archiving, it's considered as an active business partner and the rule shall consider it. But while thinking about that scope, actually I want to add another aspect because I think it only makes sense to compare the both search terms if at least search term 1 is given at all. So me as an implementer, I decide, hey, I also want to check that search term 1 is not initial. And only if both conditions are met, the business partner is in the scope of the rule. I save that, check that, or check that and save that and activate the BF Plus expression. Now, when I go back to the rule repository, I see for that rule, the scope expression is now in status active, and I still need to deal with the condition expression. Here, likewise, I go to the edit, remove the default, and here the fields of interest are right here in the context menu. I select search term 1 and search term 2 and compare both, but data is only conforming to the rule if these are not equal. I activate the expression and I'm done with implementing. So I did a decision right here to change the scope expression, not how Olivia requested it initially. So I can use Copilot to document that. So I make a note. Hey, I also added check if search term is filled at all, so that we can have a dedicated rule to check whether the search terms are given. So maybe that's a separate rule that checks for completeness of data whether search term is filled at all. And this might be separate. You might want to handle this as a separate data quality rule. And I can now add Olivia to that chat and she would receive that information. So when I'm done with implementing the rule, I would push that button, send for testing, which would change now the status of the rule in to be tested. So that's what I see on the left-hand side. And now Olivia would take over again and check whether the implementation that I did actually does what she expected. So it's according to her specification. And if this is the case, she would push the approve button, which would turn the rule into the status approved. And after that, she can enable the usage of the rule in data quality evaluation or add further usages of the rule. So this was the process, how you come to data quality rules and use them in the MDG processes. So besides defining the rules by experts, describing them in language, and then somebody having to implement it, we also have a functionality that automates with machine learning the creation of data quality rules. And we call that functionality data quality rule mining. So with rule mining, you can analyze existing master data, let the system propose parents or rules in rules to you, and the system uses a machine learning algorithm to analyze master data, and then you can decide either alone or with other experts on the business relevancy of the proposed rules. And out of those rules from rule mining, you can create full-blown data quality rules like the ones that I demoed to you already. And not only that, you can use the information that was gathered during data analysis in the implementation of the rule up to the extent that all the BF Plus artifacts that I had to create manually before are automatically created. And this, of course, eases and shortens the discovery of rules and takes care of efficiently qualifying and implementing discovered rules as data quality rules. I want to skip this demo for today because we have a dedicated community call on April 2nd on rule mining, on that functionality, which I welcome and invite you to join me in that community call. So let me wrap up today's session with a summary. So what we have seen is that SAP Master Data Governance, when it comes to master data quality management, provides you with unique benefits. First of all, we have a central repository for data quality rules per domain for business partner and for product, and it's open for customer object implementation for S/4HANA on-premise, and it's driving to cover and already now covering all MDG processes with these rules. We provide these as applications for product and business partner master data, so there's nothing to code, to develop, or to create views or something like that. You just enable the Fiori applications and do a little bit of customizing, and then you have all the apps, as I demoed them to you, already at hand for your users, where you start with creating or defining your data quality rules, defining your data quality dimensions, and so on. So as said, this is built on one platform where we provide out-of-box support for product and business partner, but this is open for customer object implementation by you, and also is used by our partner Utopia to use the same functionality for the solution extensions. The rule implementation is integrated into the rule repository, so it's more than just another wiki or another Excel spreadsheet where you collect business rules. You have the implementation along with the definition, and we have BAF Plus as a proven and very powerful design time that allows you access to the predefined data model with value helps to the customizing and so on, which makes the implementation process of data quality rules very efficient. All that functionality, and in particular the evaluation results, the analytical apps, are available to all your S/4HANA users. So it's no external tool set required. They can access that functionality from their desktop, so from their Fiori Launchpad, like any other S/4HANA functionality. And that, of course, includes the reuse of application authorizations, for example. You can safely give those analytical apps to your business users, giving the information on data quality to their hands, into their hands, and also the responsibility to the people where it belongs to fix the issues. And when defining KPI, so those data quality scores, the analytical apps are fully navigatable, allowing you to drill down from the scores down to the individual finding, and from there having insight to action to start the correction from the detected error. So that's what I wanted to sum up. I hope this was interesting and valuable to you. As said, all these demos were on the scope of S/4HANA on-premise 1909 and S/4HANA Cloud 1911 to some extent. There are minor differences, but overall, in general, that's available on both releases. Deviations at the moment are, for example, that rule mining is not yet available in S/4HANA Cloud, but that's on the roadmap as well. So they're very much the same. So I will now bring up a poll with some prepared questions to you, which I kindly ask you to answer. So we're going to do a quick poll on the two aspects on your roadmap towards S/4HANA and MDG. Please give that information to us. I want to present these links to further information to you. So we have on sap.com a product landing page, of course, sap.com/MDG. That allows you to the community, or you directly use that link to the MDG community, where we have a lively community where you can ask questions, and of course also invited to answer questions. There are a lot of blogs available there. So for example, all the blogs that are relevant to data quality management with MDG, they are tagged with MDG DQM, and there's that link down there they can directly use to access that blog series. And having said that, I want to say thank you again. And now, Meninya, I think we can open the Q&A part of today's session.
Yes, thank you very much, Andreas, for walking us through and also demoing. I already seen some feedback here that it was very beneficial, so thank you very much. We still have the poll running. We'll give it a little bit of time for people to have a look at the questions. And also at this point, I want to ensure that you know that it's an anonymous call and we're not going to follow up. It's just for the purpose to get some impressions for this call of our audience. And yeah, so feel free and help us in getting those insights for now. And yeah, Andreas, we have at the moment around 20 questions in Q&A. And if you want, you can give a stab at them. We'll try to, of course, use the next couple of minutes. I think we have around yeah, 15 minutes roundabout that you can use to answer some of the questions. And yeah, as Andreas, you said and outlined, we have the SAP Community tag where you can add those in case we don't get to answer them in this call right now. Okay.
Mhm.
All right, then yeah, you can start
Let's
from
give
the
it a
top or
try.
how you like.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you. So there is one question, as it is on BF Plus framework, is there any restriction on cross entity? So for example, as we have the restriction in cross derivations. So with that additional concept of master data quality rules with MDG, there's no concept of entities. You define the rules on the data model, which is based or defined using tables and fields. So in the customizing transaction MDC IMG, you have that data model that is for the consolidation mass processing framework, first of all. And second, yes, you can have rules that do not work on only one single table, but across tables. So for example, you can do checks that, yeah, I know, that verify MAP parameters depending on material type. And you can also have rules that go to sibling tables. So for example, you can do checks on sales area level that depend on information on the delivery plant or something like that. You can do all those things. Depending on the complexity of the rule, you might need to do some further things in the implementation of the data quality rule. What this is, I want to show this to you because exactly that is subject to an additional community call in about, I think, 2 weeks from now, where we have a deep dive on data quality management implementation aspects. And I cordially invite you to join that. Then I want to also take the opportunity for a remark that, of course, you can extend the analytical capabilities here. We have customers using SAP Analytics Cloud to provide their C-level executive with a customer data officer like of experience to include data quality aspects in a broader, in a dashboard that includes various aspects of data and maybe even of processes and so on. That's extensible, and there are also there's also information in our community in regards to that. So there's one question: delegation. Can I delegate to any users, or are there any restrictions? So we work with authorizations and roles in the applications, of course, depending on how you set up those authorizations. It's of course makes sense or doesn't make sense to send such a filtered view on an analytical list page on the evaluation results to some user or not. I mean, during the sharing, this will of course not be checked, but in general, you can share that information with anybody, and the respective authorizations will then determine whether the data is visible to that person. So already covered the other questions that are also asking about the cross-entity check. I think I answered that already to the full extent, or with the reference to the other community call.
Feel free to click on Answer Live if you have answered the questions. Oh yeah, perfect.
So can DQM be incorporated with consolidation framework at any certain step, such as validation by standard? So when you add the usage check in consolidation to a rule, it will be considered in the validation and activation steps steps of consolidation processes if you have also enabled the usage of data quality rules in that step configuration. So the answer is yes. Yeah, thanks for also saying thank you to me. It was a pleasure. So, and then there's a question, thank you for that question. Are there plans to integrate also derivation rules in DQM? So I maybe have not made this explicit enough. So at the moment with the current scope, the data quality rules can only be used for checking data, so validation. So the outcome will be data conforms to the rule, yes or no. What we have not yet there is to use the rules also for deriving values. We have it on our roadmap to extend the rules and to do it in a way that if you have already a rule that checks whether a particular material group is possible depending on the material type and whatever aspects, that you in the end should also be able to use the rule in a process to calculate the correct material group if there's only one possible. So yes, there are plans to include also derivation rules, but I am not able yet to make any statement on when this will be possible. Does rule mining also include custom entity or attribute? Yes. So maybe also a general remark on extensibility. So I don't think there's any customer who has not any set fields on Mara level or on other levels of the material master or customer and supplier. And all this is of course extensible. So it depends a little bit on how you did the extension. But for example, if you use the eMara structure to add your custom field, it's just a couple of mouse clicks, and you will be able to include also or to do also rules for these custom fields in your rules. And as said, all the apps besides the analytical apps, but the rule repository where you define the rules, this is a generic rule with custom, with domain-specific variants. And it's also very easy to use that same rule for your custom object. So if you have, for example, already a consolidation mass processing data model for your custom object in the system, so in this MDC IMG transaction, actually it's very easy to have the rule repository for your custom domain also. So let me see whether there are further questions that I'm able to answer. Question is, can the DQM rules also be implemented via ABAP classes? Yes, that's the case. And this is one of the benefits of using BF Plus, because BF Plus is very powerful when it comes to what can I use to express the rule logic. Yeah, you can use such simple expressions like I used them in the demo, but there are also other means in BF Plus to express that logic. I will go into that a little bit in the deep dive session. And one part of that additional functionality is to do a so-called procedure call to call out into our code. But when it comes, so as a general remark at this point in time also, when talking, for instance, about data quality evaluation, you also need to consider performance aspects. Yeah? So customers have I don't know, millions of material master data with a couple of plants for each product and so on. So this is a very large amount of data, and multiplied by the amount of rules that you define, there's a lot of calculation needed to do the evaluation. And of course, you need to see that whatever you do then in your ABAP code is performed enough for your appropriate use case. And of course, MDG also helps you in achieving that, because because the data quality evaluation makes use of the consolidation mass processing framework, which is by itself already built in a way that it is prepared for mass data operations. What does it mean? For example, there is packaging available, so all the evaluation or the data to be evaluated is split into lots of packages, and these packages are evaluated in parallel. And depending on how you have set up your system, as I said, this can be done or will be done in parallel, I don't know, in 2 queues in parallel or even more queues in parallel. And depending how you have set up the system, you can dedicate a specific amount or degree, I don't know what the English word is, of system resources to the purpose of data quality evaluation.
Okay, so with the time coming to an end for this call, if you want, we can tackle one more question and then wrap it up.
Yes, that's what I do. Maybe 2 questions, because one was, why is MDG Finance not considered in DQM? Also, thank you for that question. So as a general restriction is that data quality management is not available to data models in MDG central governance that are using the addition concept, or that are based on the flex entities concept of MDG, so using MDG as the active area. That's a general restriction decision that we made during the design. So this is the reason why finance is not included in DQM. And as the last part, how much impact on MDG performance is done when running rules in parallel? So in single processing, this is really fast, but of course depends on how you implemented the rules and to the amount of rules that are checked. So it's hard for me to give a general statement. And for the data quality evaluation purpose, you can balance the load in your system and even use the ABAP application server techniques to push the load to certain points in time, or on application servers that are even dedicated for the purpose to the extreme. So, and with that, I want to close today's session from my side. Say thank you again. Thanks for joining. Thanks for your kind interest, for asking all those questions. So that gives me the impression that it was quite helpful, today's session. Thank you very much.
And Andreas, it's good news for you. You already gained 10 more followers during this call on SAP Community.
Thank you.
Then thank you again, and have a good rest of day, everyone. Stay tuned. Bye-bye.